without you. Lungs drained of air. Life feels unfair without you. Come back to me. Don't leave me to dream about you. Dream about you. Dream about you. I cannot breathe without you. I cannot breathe without you. The only way to fix this, the only way to fix this pain inside. The only way to fix this is a deep breath in as you say
I kick ass for the Lord.
What about me?
I never loved him the way that I love you. Just drops the mic.
Bit me with his butt.
Can't see it from here.
What about the pen?
What about the panty? What's up, Butters? What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Oppenheimer stream, where we're going to talk about Oppenheimer and no other movie today. I'm kidding, of course.
The famous 1993 Oppenheimer movie.
Yeah, the famous 1993 Oppenheimer movie. Welcome in, everybody. Sorry, I was joking with Joseph before we were watching this. And what should you have for dinner? That's a question that's come in. Sloppy Joe's, tacos, or spaghetti? What do you think, Joe?
I mean, my name's in one of those, so I'm a little biased, but
Didn't even think about it.
spaghetti.
And are you a little sloppy?
Usually
Usually.
a lot sloppy.
I think you found your answer, Spencer.
Me.
You have some sloppy Joes, sloppy me's. Okay, but seriously, let's get real about all of this. Welcome in. It's 52/1993, the movie podcast where we talk about 52 movies from the year 1993 every week. Doesn't matter if they're good or they're bad or they are in the middle somewhere. We talk about them all. Not all of them, only 52 of them. And I usually bring in a co-host to help me talk about these movies, make sure I don't miss anything. And that's where Joe comes in. And we welcome Joe and are glad that he is here with us. So thank you, Joe.
Thanks for having me, as always.
As
Pleasure.
always. And we're not talking about Oppenheimer. I'm very sorry. We will not talk about any of the new movies until the end of this podcast, where I'm sure we'll both have similar things that we have recently watched, and we can talk about it then, just a little bit. I'm not going to talk about it a ton because we don't want to give any spoilers or anything for anybody, even though it's history and these events have already happened. Although I really would like to talk to you about how well your Sanskrit is, Joseph. So
It's rusty.
it's rusty. If next time I see you, we're going to reenact the Sanskrit scene.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Good to Florence.
I can't wait. Oh my gosh. Okay, so we're talking about The Fugitive this week. A very fun movie, a very interesting movie, and I'm sure we've got lots to say about it. I really enjoy this movie, but we can talk about it a little bit further. But before we begin our discussion, I'll tell you a little bit more about The Fugitive. So The Fugitive came out August 6th, 1993. I didn't screw it up this week. I will probably screw it up here later. It was directed by Andrew Davis, who doesn't really have any like bangers under his belt of things that I was like, yeah, this guy probably directed some really, really good movies. He hasn't. If I am looking at his filmography, we're looking at Under Siege, A Perfect Murder, Holes, which is a personal favorite of mine. I love Holes, but like nothing that really stands out for as well as the Fugitive did, and we'll talk about that some more in the success that this movie had. It was written by Jeb Stewart and David Toohey. It stars Harrison Ford as Dr. Richard Kimball, Tommy Lee Jones as U.S. Marshal Sam Gerard, Celia Ward as Helen Kimball, Joe Pantoliano as Cosmo, another one of the marshals, Andreas Katsoulis as Frederick Sykes, Jaron Crabb as Dr. Charles Nichols, Daniel Roebuck as Bobby Biggs, another marshal, L. Scott Caldwell, playing Aaron Poole, another marshal. We've also got some random people in here that are probably way more famous now than they ever used to be. Julianne Moore, which I've got some fun facts about Julianne Moore's character in here. Jane Lynch, Neil Flynn, known as the janitor from Scrubs. This is his second appearance in our movies of 1993. He was previously in Rookie of the Year. Richard Reel is a that guy kind of character that shows up in a lot of films. You're like, oh yeah, that guy. He's got a mustache and he's got an interesting voice. So a couple randos there. We might have some more later. I don't know. I don't know what Joseph's plan is. But anyway, let me tell you the synopsis of this movie. Wrongfully accused of murdering his wife, Richard Kimball escapes from the law in an attempt to find her killer and clear his name. Pursuing him is a team of U.S. Marshals led by Deputy Samuel Gerard, a determined detective who will not rest until Richard is captured. As Richard leads the team through a series of intricate chases, he discovers the secrets behind his wife's death and struggles to expose the killer before it is too late. This movie has a budget of $44 million and came in at $368.9 million, giving it the number 3 spot of all movies in 1993 for how much money it made, only behind Jurassic Park, of course, and Mrs. Doubtfire, which we will talk about later this year. Oh. Spoiler. Rotten Tomatoes. This is one of the higher ones we've got here. Rotten Tomatoes has a 96% on this movie.
Wow.
96. Yeah. 96%. IMDb is a little bit lower. It's a 7.8 out of 10. And let me I really had difficulty finding somebody to say something negative about this movie. But Roger Ebert gave it 4 stars out of 4 stars. The Fugitive has the standards of an earlier, more classic time when acting, character, and dialogue were meant to stand on their own and where characters continued to change and develop right up until the last frame. Here is one of the year's best films. So Roger coming in hot there. While there are actors in this film, there isn't much room for acting. The rapid editing and near absence of dialogue reduces the actors to action figures with colorful labels pasted on their foreheads. That was Jay Boyar of the Orlando Sentinel. He gave it 3 out of 5 stars. So not too shabby still. This movie did lead to some awards and a spinoff. The spinoff, of course, was U.S. Marshals, starring Tommy Lee Jones again. And this movie actually did pretty well, getting some nominations at the Academy Awards. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Cinematography, Best Film Editing, Original Score, Best Sound, and Best Sound Effects Editing. Unfortunately, it only won one of those, and that was Best Supporting Actor for Tommy Lee Jones. So a lot of fun facts to throw at you there in the initial screening of this. But Joseph, what did you think about this movie?
I liked it. It was it's definitely not a first watch for me, but it has been a really long time since I've seen it. And I think I've seen probably U.S. Marshals more than I've seen The Fugitive, honestly.
Really? I've never seen U.S. Marshals.
Oh, you should watch it.
Yeah.
Wesley,
I was thinking more Robert Downey's in that, right?
Hey, wait, what?
I think Robert Downey Jr.'s in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
That's
He's
like
he's got a good role in that too. Yeah.
that's like in the middle of his like coked out phase too. Like that's in the 90s when he is just coked out of his mind. So
Yeah. It's it was I feel like of these kind of movies in this era with Harrison, like it's one of the ones I've watched the least. So it was good to watch it again, and I feel like it holds up pretty well. And was a good watch.
Yeah, I agree. And this movie comes from, and I didn't have it written in my notes, but this movie comes from a 60s television show. It's based off the same premise. Dr. Richard Kimball is chasing after the one-armed man. And I didn't really know anything about that or anything until what is it? What Jim Carrey role is it? It might be Ace Ventura when he says, "It wasn't me. It was the one-armed man." That's all I knew about this movie for the longest time. I did not see this until much later, like fully until much later in my life. I think this movie was on like TNT or HBO or something like that, like on repeat. That I would catch like bits and pieces every now and again whenever I'd watch cable. But I watched this fully within the last like 5 years. Really enjoyed it. And I really do. I like this movie a lot. It's action packed but it's also not at the same time. It like fills that hole that I love. That is a like solving a mystery. And I love the cat and mouse thing. And we had a couple when we did Clear and Present Danger. We had that cat and mouse thing. I love a good cat and mouse movie, and this is a really good cat and mouse. Not as many phone calls as I would like in my cat and mouse thrillers, but there's definitely a good one.
There's some good ones, though. You know,
yeah, they're good. But the one unique thing about this movie, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, is like I think that the person that's being chased is outshone by the person that is chasing.
Agreed, 100%.
I don't think this is a Harrison Ford movie as much as I think it should be. This is a Tommy Lee Jones movie.
I 100% agree, and that's why I would believe that's why U.S. Marshals happened as a sequel.
And I mean, I like the entire team, all of that part of it. Their camaraderie, their jokes, their banter is so good in those little moments. Like they do, like, you know, like they've done this for a while, or like they're a family kind of thing. I really enjoy that part of it, and I wanted more of that. So
yeah, he's a great ringleader too. Like,
yes,
the what does he call himself? The big dog.
The big dog. No, that's a good scene. A lot of the good lines are written for the team. Like, honestly, Richard Kimball is kind of dry that's when we get to like what we would change or like things that we could improve about this. I'll talk about that a little bit more, but let's go ahead and move through some of our categories that I have listed here and see what we think. So first, I'm going to start with you, Joseph, and see, we're going to talk about the best scenes in this movie, the 4 to 5 scenes that really make up this movie and really, stand out to us. So I'll start with yours.
Okay. I'm sure we match up on several of these, but the first one I had was the bus/train crash, because it was both. But yeah, you get like a lot of backstory before that, but basically he's been convicted of killing his wife and is on the way to jail for that when the prisoners kind of pull a little maneuver to crash the bus, and then the bus gets hit by the train while it's overturned, ultimately leading to him getting away from the cops and starting the chase.
That is, I think that is what I have listed as my first scene. Let me make sure in my note. Yes, train wreck and initial escape. That's the note that I had put down there for that. Again, it like you get led into this pretty quickly with the the murder or him being captured early on, and then you're like, the movie I do not feel like starts until that where they're riding on the bus. Yeah.
It's all kind of like fluff backstory. Like you don't get a whole lot other than his wife got killed. He's the suspect. He is convicted. That's about all of it. So
Yeah.
But the bus crash was gnarly, and the train crash was gnarly too.
And I think that's all real.
Yeah.
From what I read, and maybe you have more research on that, but I think that when they were shooting this movie, they were like, well, we could, try and fake it or try and do something, but it'd be cheaper for us just to recreate it. And I believe that's what they did.
That's what I read.
Yeah.
It was like that Christopher Nolan thing was like, well, I'll just crash a 747 because it's cheaper.
Yeah, it's so much cheaper to do that. So I think that's really interesting. But yeah, it's crucial to the role or to the movie. You get to see a little bit of character development there with Richard Kimball. You see, I feel like at the beginning of this movie, we know that he did not kill his wife. That is one thing that I wish we were kind of like let on later, that he didn't actually kill his wife. It's kind of that. You've seen Shawshank Redemption, right?
Yeah.
Like we spend that whole movie not really sure whether or not Andy Dufresne, Tim Robbins' main character, really knows, or we don't know whether or not he really did kill his wife. In this, I feel like we know right away. We know this guy didn't kill his wife, and maybe that's based on the television show and the previous knowledge we have, or just the way that Harrison Ford is kind of portrayed early on. He's kind of a good guy. He saves that, or I think he saves that guard's life, throwing him from the train or getting him from the accident. And
but the other guard takes the credit for it. He's like, no, I pulled him out.
Yeah, I pulled him out, which is garbage.
Yeah.
And so we get a little bit of that, like, okay, we know Richard Kimball's not a bad guy. And then we also get his initial escape. And, I love when Tommy Lee Jones comes into this and like his team comes into the crime scene and is asking all these questions. And they're like, this is my jurisdiction. And he's like, are you sure? And like, doesn't seem like anybody survived. And he's like, well, are you sure? Here's some chains. And usually people don't get out of these if they're alive or they're not alive. I love that.
Yeah, that was actually, I split that up as like my second scene is like when the marshals come on the scene. It's kind of like you immediately love them and love the ringleader. He comes in hot with a bunch of like jokes and stuff. And yeah, it's good.
And he gets called Wyatt Earp during this, and he thinks he's like, oh yeah, Wyatt Earp. And he takes over the jurisdiction of this once they find out that Kimball has escaped. They put way more emphasis on Kimball than the other guy that did escape.
Yeah.
Which
that was weird.
Yeah, it is weird, especially because they do eventually go after that guy. But for the most part, it's only about Richard Kimball. And
I tried to like dig into that. Okay, so I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole. I didn't really get anywhere, but they were wearing different colored jumpsuits.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, maybe he's like a lesser, like not threatening criminal kind of guy with the green jumpsuit. I couldn't really like find anything definitive from the 90s, but there was like something I saw about like green jumpsuits could be like a low risk prisoner. So
maybe just because he's a murderer that he is more. They're like, this is the guy that we actually are after. So
yeah, that was the only thing I come up with. The same thing said that like the high risk prisoners though wear red. So I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know what yellow means.
No, I love this. I love this scene, and I love it because it's that I have it written down in best quotes, but basically when he learns that Kimball's still out there, he has this like whole thing where he says, all right, we're going to set up a 15-mile perimeter and we're going to check these places. And like he just sets forth the plan, like it's an action right then and there. And we're kind of thrown into it after that with Kimball, going to the hospital and shaving off his nasty beard and changing clothes and then stealing an ambulance, which leads into my next scene. I don't know what your next scene is on there. But
the ambulance and tunnel.
Yeah, I have the helicopter chase leading to the tunnel. I guess that's a dam. And we get the famous lines for that. So one, like, how do they not see him in that tunnel? That's what I want to know. Like when he gets out of that helicopter and starts running backwards, like they don't see that this guy has just clearly left the, I don't know what the tunnel looks like from the other side, but it seems a little like he was farther ahead of them than he should have been in my eyes.
Yeah. I think Richard Kimball might have actually been a criminal just because of how elusive he was throughout this whole movie.
we gotta go for, that's what they says.
We
gotta go for.
Yep.
Dude, tell me, Tommy Lee Jones is so badass in this movie.
He's awesome. Honestly, like around this time, and I was gonna say this later, but I'll just go ahead and throw it out there. Around this time, like Fugitive U.S. Marshals, he was like one of my top actors because of performances.
He's so good, and like I kind of wish I watched more Tommy Lee Jones stuff just based on this.
Do it, man,
because he's incredible in this. Yeah, so this these sewer scenes or whatever, this is, Tommy Lee, like it's almost like a Goonies where they go in like different holes or whatever to try and chase him down. But Tommy Lee Jones, of course, chases him down through the right rabbit hole and loses his gun. Yeah. And Kimball grabs the gun and points it at Tommy Lee Jones once he's down there and has that famous interaction. And I love this interaction. It's definitely, the best quote, probably the most known quote of this movie, where Harrison Ford, pointing the gun at Tommy Lee Jones, says, "I didn't kill my wife." And Tommy Lee Jones says, "I don't care." And I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that Tommy Lee Jones actually like got them to change it to that too. I think it was a different line.
The crazy thing that I read about this movie is a lot of dialogue is improvised. Like a lot of the interactions that we see are all improvised. The scene where Harrison Ford or Richard Kimball is getting interrogated after, killing his wife or whatever. That entire scene, he had no idea what the questions were going to be that they were asking him. And so every response that he had is an improvised line. And a lot of the interaction between Tommy Lee Jones and Kimball in those brief moments is like the whole team that Tommy Lee Jones had. A lot of their conversations are improvised, which I think
that's awesome.
Yeah, like maybe this shouldn't have got a writing credit, or like because there's so much improvisation in here too. Like I think that's really impressive, and I don't know. It's just I think it makes this movie a little bit more interesting to me.
Yeah,
and impressive in a way that these actors were able to make it feel, I don't know, realer, I guess.
Yeah. I don't think it really showed that much, like thinking back on it. That interrogation scene that you're talking about with the cops, that was really bad. I wrote that down specifically because Harrison Ford was so bad in that scene.
Yeah.
But other than that, like I didn't really notice like it feeling clunky or. But
I wonder about like the banter mostly.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking about the banter between the marshals. Like that's impressive to me.
Yeah,
and the more I think about it, I'm like, yeah, this is probably more real conversation than what they're used to, and you get funnier lines out of it too. This movie's really funny.
Good form. Yeah, I laughed a lot.
And then of course the ending of this scene I think culminates at the entrance or the waterfall of the dam. Where he just leaps out, like instead of giving himself up, he just jumps off into this waterfall, into this river, and we learn later does survive. So
unscathed,
no problem at all. No problems at all. Okay, I took over the next scene. What is your next scene?
After that, the next scene I had, there's a lot of like like you said, cat and mouse, little pieces of the mystery unraveling. But the next scene I had was like when he goes to visit the guy that he thinks is his wife's killer, Driscoll, I think his name was.
Mm-hmm.
He was like incarcerated somewhere, and he's like slipping in to confront him, and that leads to a whole shit show.
Yeah. I actually have a scene before that.
All right, let's hear it.
Before that, the scene that I had picked out was the L Train scene where they kind of discover that he is in Chicago. The only reason I put that on my list, and it's really brief and small, is just because I like the camaraderie among the team. That's when they call him Big Dog.
Big dog.
And he's like, he's alive. I told you guys, you got to listen to the Big Dog. And they're sitting there like, Kimball calls his lawyer and he's like, I'm in St. Louis. And they like pick out that he's in Chicago based on an L Train discovery. And it really is less than like a 5-minute scene. How do you know it's an elevated train? Like, I used to live under one. Like, there's some really good banter in that scene. So that was the only scene I had before the whatever that building is that you're talking about. So we'll jump back into your scene there.
I did really like that scene you're talking about. It was so brief, but they like picked him apart so fast. He was like trying to lead him to St. Louis, and they're like, "No, he's in Chicago."
He's in
5
Chicago.
minutes later. But yeah, the scene I was talking about, like, so he's done a lot of investigating. He's found the list of the guys with the prosthetic arms, narrowed it down, and so he's going to see this guy Driscoll that he thinks is the guy because he's got an armed robbery charge and he's like in jail. So he's like, he's a criminal. It's got to be him. And so he like does all this to get in past the security and visit this guy, and immediately finds out it's not him, but the marshals have gotten like on the same trail. So they're at the same building, and him and like Sam or Tommy Lee Jones character are like, he's going up one set of stairs and Richard's going down the other set, and that like leads to the chase scene.
Richard.
Yeah, why?
Just to
Why
make
would
sure. Just to make
That
sure. He
really,
knew.
you could just follow him though. Like that bugged me a lot
It didn't bug me because he just
because
seems
he wasn't
like
sure it was him.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
wasn't sure it's him, but when he shouts Richard, he's like, "Oh, I know it's him." And I've got my boys here, they're gonna follow. But like Richard Kimball's pretty good in escaping because he finds a cop and is like, "There's a guy waving a gun and like hurting some ladies, like grab him," kind of thing. I really like that. That was good. My favorite part of this scene, and I have this starred as like my favorite scene out of all of them, is Tommy Lee Jones's character shooting at Richard at the end as the doors are closing and everything. He's just like shooting, does not care at all because he wants to get him. We see it a little bit in the scene that we haven't talked about, where they do go after that other fugitive from the train wreck, and they find him at this house, and they end up, that fugitive takes one of his own hostage, and Tommy Lee Jones just comes around a corner and pops him, just kills that guy. So he's kind of ruthless in that way, but like, like this is his job. And you see it in the scene when he says, "I don't care, like if you didn't kill your wife," because that's not his job. His job is not to investigate. His job is not to find out who really killed somebody. His job is to get the fugitives who are running from the law. Like, hey, you've been sentenced already. That's already been done. I'm here to get you. And so like when he shoots that gun at him and it hits that bulletproof glass, and Tommy Lee Jones does this like look, like they do a look at each other that I think is so good. And he's just like so pissed that he can't get him in that moment. But I love this. I love this scene. I think it's one of the best scenes in the movie.
Agreed. I think again, getting ahead of myself, but I think like as far as like thrills go, that was probably like the most intense moment because he just unloaded. Like he was just like, all right, if I'm not gonna catch him, you guys screwed this up. I'm just gonna shoot him.
Yeah. There's civilians everywhere. Like,
Right.
it's crazy. All right. What's the next scene? Unless you have something else to talk about this scene.
No, that was pretty much it. Oh, the parade was the only other thing. Like the St. Patrick's Day parade was like the tail end of that same scene. Like he gets away through the parade, and you're talking about improv. I've read that like apparently that was all like unscripted. They just kind of like got out in the parade,
Yeah,
and did their thing.
Yeah, like Harrison Ford like asked to walk with the plumbers union or whatever it was. And they were like, yeah, sure. And the director was going handheld through a lot of that. So yeah, that is the real St. Patty's Day parade that's going on. And they were just like, we're going to film it kind of guerrilla style. So that was really cool. I like that part of it.
Yeah.
And then we get a lot of like exposition, or not exposition. We get a lot of like, I don't know, boring stuff in between here. Like Richard really kind of investigating a little bit more, and that's kind of where this movie I love this movie, but that's kind of where the movie drags a little bit.
Yeah.
And in this investigation and him trying to find out this secret conspiracy about the research that they were doing medically and yada yada yada. Like I just didn't care. I just didn't care at all. What's the next? Is that the last scene that you had, or was there another scene in there that you really liked?
The final one I had was just kind of like the end, like when I think I liked when he like confronted him at the convention more than I did like the aftermath of like the chase and the laundry and all that.
The only thing else I had in between there was during his little investigation thing when he was at the hospital. And he ends up saving that boy's life. Yeah, I thought that was a really good part. It did feel like there was more to it, and stuff that we didn't get later on, just because of runtime. And that's true. There are several scenes that were not filmed or were cut from this because it just didn't matter, and it was kind of weird. But we'll talk about that. But yeah, the ending scene, I agree with you. I think the confrontation at the conference is better than the final like fight scene, because it was kind of anticlimactic, honestly.
Yeah,
it was just kind of over.
A lot of the like chase and action scenes were I feel like the 90s is kind of not great at a lot of those. So it was kind of like you know.
Well, this is a weird one, right? Like this isn't. It's kind of actiony, but it's not. Like
yeah.
And I don't think that it quite knows what to do. Is this a thriller? Is this an action movie? Is this a detective movie? You kind of, I don't know.
Let's do it all.
Let's do it all. Let's throw it all in there. But yeah, the action is not. This is not an action movie outside of like the very first scene with the train. Or not the very first scene, but that big train crash scene. That's the most action you get in this entire movie.
Yeah.
Is that like, and a couple like rundown scenes, but that's it.
The chases weren't like awesome. The fisticuffs weren't very well choreographed or anything.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So, but I love when he like burst in like during the guy's speech that we find out is like orchestrating all this, which was supposed to be one of his friends. Surprise, surprise! Like
surprise, yeah.
Like, but yeah, when he like confronted him in front of everybody during his speech, he does like a Freudian slip and like says dishonest instead of honest at one point, like trying to continue the speech. It was good.
Yeah, that is the better part, and then it kind of fizzles out at the end. Except for like when he gets in the cop car with Tommy Lee Jones, and he's like, "I thought you didn't care." He's like, "Don't tell anybody." I like that. I like that at the end.
I don't.
Don't tell anybody. Yeah,
that was good.
Anything else? Any other scene that kind of stuck out that we're missing or that were?
I think those were like the big highlights.
I mentioned the house raid of the other fugitive, just in passing, but I had that one written down as well. Because I really didn't understand what was happening at first. I thought they were raiding Richard's house at first, and then I realized that they're somewhere completely different.
Was that supposed to just mislead the audience, or did they get a tip and it was the wrong fugitive?
I think that they get a tip about that other it's just so weird because of the beginning when he was like, all right, Richard Kimball's our fugitive and we're going to go get him and all this stuff. And then I think it's just a misdirect.
Okay.
And for us in the audience. Yeah. To think
it was hard to decide whether it was a misdirect or whether the tip was ambiguous enough that it was just the wrong fugitive.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like they really came down on one side or the other.
Well,
but they didn't look surprised that it was.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And then they gave us the other. Well, we hear something that this person's shacking up, with his girlfriend, and you get a brief thing there. But then we get that other misdirect where they actually end up at Richard Kimball's apartment, but they're not here for him. And it wasn't even the marshals. It was the police.
Right.
Whoever he's renting the apartment from, I guess, is a pedophile or something. Or no, he gives drugs to young kids. That's drug dealer. They weren't ready for the pedophile thing yet. And then that's how they find out that Richard Kimball's staying downstairs. I don't know. That was a leap to me.
Yeah.
This guy gets arrested and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, that guy's he's staying in my basement. I thought that was weird.
He was just a rat, man. He was a narc. He didn't want to go to jail.
I guess. I keep thinking that guy's a pedophile because he looks like he fits the bill.
Well, and they said something about 12-year-olds during that scene too.
But it's you like to feed 12-year-olds drugs.
Yeah, something like that. I thought the same thing first too. My brain was like, whoa, underage pedophile. But then I had to backtrack and reel it back in.
It was a little weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
All right, I think we are going to agree on everything from here on out. But who's your favorite character in the movie?
Well, yeah, Julianne Moore.
That's a lie. That's a lie. Just because she has red hair does not mean that she's your favorite character.
No, I mean it was Tommy Lee Jones all the way.
Yeah.
Favorite character and best acting.
I think I did write Scene Stealer. I gave it to Cosmo because I love Joe Pantoliano or Pantoliano.
Good lines and some good moments. I think he's even better in U.S. Marshals too. You should watch it.
I need to watch U.S. Marshals. You're right. But yeah, I liked him. I actually thought that I want to call her Rose, and I know that's not her name. But it's only because of we had two lost people on the team. Daniel Roebuck and L. Scott Caldwell, both from Lost. One is Arts, of course, and then the other one is Rose from Lost. Oh, Aaron Poole. She's got some really good lines too. She's really snappy in this. The whole team. Are they all in U.S. Marshals?
So I know kind of those four. Well, I'm not sure if she is. It's been a while since I've seen U.S. Marshals too, but I know Cosmo, Newman, and Arts,
Bobby Biggs, yeah.
I know those three for sure are on the team.
It doesn't look like she's in it. That's a bummer.
I'm not sure about the other guy that's on the team either. It may just be those three. And I think Robert Downey Jr. joins the team or is working with the team.
Yeah, he's a special agent, it looks like, just reading from that. Okay, you've got me. I'll watch it. It's
most of the core team. So
okay. Are you describing? Chat said, "Are you describing?" I know you can't see it because it's kind of screwed up. But are you describing Seinfeld? Cosmo, Newman.
Oh, what? I didn't even think.
Think about that either. That's crazy.
Cosmo, Newman. Wait, what are their other names?
Is anybody named Jerry?
Jerry Seinfeld.
As in Jerry Seinfeld or Lorraine, or not Lorraine? Elaine. No, it doesn't. Aaron. No. Aaron's their name. Sorry.
Well, we were close.
Art Vandelay. What? Somebody said that in chat. That's great. But two of these people are from Lost. If you've never seen Lost, they're pretty good roles in Lost. One of them a very funny role, and one of them a kind of a recurring character throughout the whole series.
Yeah,
so.
one of them was a little bit shorter.
Yeah, one's a little bit short. Yeah, but it's great. Okay, so we agree Tommy Lee Jones is the best character. In this.
Yeah.
Favorite quotes from this movie. I've got a list, man.
I've got a pretty good list too, and I bet we have a lot of overlap. So.
Yes, so you go ahead.
Okay, we'll trade off. How about that? Okay. The first one I wrote. Well, you already said we got to go for it, but the first one I wrote down was when he asked. I think it was Newman. He was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm thinking." He's like, "Well, think me up a cup of coffee and a chocolate donut with some of those little sprinkles on top."
I love that line. It's so good. He's so quick.
Yeah, just right off the top.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I will go ahead and I will say the line at the very beginning where he lists out everything. I love this paragraph. And he says, "All right, listen up, ladies and gentlemen. Our fugitive has been on the run for 90 minutes. Average foot speed over uneven ground, barring injuries, is 4 miles per hour. That gives us a radius of 6 miles. What I want from each and every one of you is a hard target search of every gas station, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, hen house, outhouse, and doghouse in that area. Checkpoints go up at 15 miles. Your fugitive's name is Dr. Richard Kimball. Go get him." I love that whole thing.
Yeah,
is
I
so
feel
good.
Like when they're at the dam too, it's not as like clean and concise as that, but he's like doing the same kind of like delegate this. I just love, man, he's so perfect for that. Like just snapping at people, telling them what to do. Like, let's get it going.
He is good.
Yeah, he's really good.
All right, yours.
One of my favorites was you may not be on your list, but when Kimball's in the hospital right after he shaves and like is about to steal the ambulance, he encounters a cop who has like the wanted poster right in front of him, and he's like asking him about like, have you seen this guy? And he turns to him and smiles and says, "Every day when I look in the mirror."
Yeah. He's like,
I thought that was really funny.
Brown hair, 6 feet, like, yeah.
Every day.
That's me, bro. The one after the dam, when he jumps off the dam, this is a state trooper says, but only one man in a million can survive that fall. That guy is fish food. And Gerard, Tommy Lee's character, says, "Fine, go get a cane pole, catch that fish that ate him." I love it.
That was one of mine too.
Yeah.
Speaking of jumping off the dam, I think it's Cosmo. The guy did a Peter Pan right off this dam. Or no, I think it's Sam. The guy did a Peter Pan right off this dam.
Yeah, that's good. Cosmo has some good ones. Whenever they're starting to go in the tunnels for the sewage and stuff, he goes, "Oh shit, I just bought these shoes." And Gerard just says, "Shut up, Cosmo." Like,
oh man.
What else you got?
I had the fish food one. Let's see, what else? Oh, I think it was Sykes when they're on the trail of one of the bad guys. And he comes home and there's just like cops everywhere. He says, it's just a short little line. He says, "What the hell is this, a trench coat convention?"
Yes, I like
I
that.
really
I
like
that. The only other one that we haven't talked about, obviously, that we've got the pivotal, like, "I didn't kill my wife, I don't care." But obviously, I think that's like the best line and delivery in the movie. But my other favorite line is a Cosmo and Gerard back and forth, and Cosmo says, "When I die, I want to come back just like you." And Gerard says, "Oh, you mean happy and handsome?"
That was my last one I had written down. But
happy and handsome. I love that. All right. So if that was our last one, and I think we have the same for this, but the biggest laugh, cry, scare, or thrill, I had the chase scene in the whatever building this is, like the courthouse, jail, whatever it is in downtown Chicago that this is. But yeah, I think that is the best thrill, at least in this movie. I don't know about laugh or cry or scare.
Yeah. Laughs were just the one-liners, like cry, scare, not so much. I put for my biggest thrill, I put just like the bus and train crash,
That is good. It is
especially
really good.
after like knowing that it was like real and you can like go to that spot in North Carolina.
Yes, they like it's like a tourist thing. That's so cool. It
I wanna
makes you
go.
want to go. Yeah.
So we're going to North Carolina to see
You're
that.
close.
Yeah,
Just head
you
over
want to go
there.
tomorrow?
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow. I'm not doing anything but working.
Yeah, so that was like my biggest thrill moment, just because it was crazy.
Yeah.
A bus crash wasn't enough. We had to hit it with a train afterwards.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Yep, it's so good. Most what the F moment, ridiculous moment. What do you have?
Okay, I did the Peter Pan off the
Yeah, it's
Uh,
pretty ridiculous.
you can clearly see like it's like a
The dummy. The dummy is so bad. It's
but also that somebody could just like do that and be good. Like,
yeah.
swim away and not be horribly injured. Come on,
I'm gonna try and recreate it.
you should. We'll do it when we go to North Carolina.
Okay,
We'll just do the whole thing. Get the full experience.
Done.
I did have one other like side WTF moment. When he's at the hospital and he steals that dude's food and clothes, like that patient's food and clothes. He's like scraping his food off his plate while he's just sitting there in a neck brace.
That mean-
I was like, come on, man.
Those eggs looked better than the typical eggs I would think that they would get at a hospital.
Those aren't from a carton, baby.
No, those look like good scrambled eggs. Like there's some white in there, egg white in there, and some yeah, it looked good.
just steals it all though. I was like, come on, man. This dude was laid up. He
He's,
got food brought to him and you just
thank God the clothes fit though.
True.
That's
He's a big man. I'm surprised that they did.
I didn't like. I mean, I know why he did it because they didn't want Richard Kimball to be in a disguise, and so they were like, "Let's just have you grow out your beard. That way, you could just shave off your beard, and that's your disguise." But that beard was gross and not what I like. Not gross in like a bad. It's just a big bushy beard. Great big bushy beard. And like, if I were going to I just can't imagine. I don't know, a doctor that looks like Harrison Ford having that big of beard as a doctor. It just seemed weird.
It probably is not even allowed, is it? Like for sanitary purposes?
I have no idea. I'm sure there are surgeons and stuff. I'm trying to think if my shoulders
like big one, you know?
Yeah, it has to be like well kept, and that one was that one was not well kept.
he almost looked when they were like at the charity event at the beginning and he had like tucked out with that beard, it was like jarring. Like,
yeah,
I don't think you should have shaved for this event, my guy. What's happening?
No wonder your wife got killed. She wanted out, bro.
With that beard.
She hated that beard so much.
Yeah,
oh man. Okay, best music moment.
I thought the music overall was like really solid. There was like a moment that stood out for me when he's at like where was he? He's somewhere getting tissue samples from some guy, and as part of his investigation, we find out that they're like faking samples to get this drug pushed through. You know, big pharma stuff. But he's talking to this guy who's like, "Hey, well, whatever happened with that thing with like you and your wife?" And he like does like the look to him. He's like, "It's not over yet." And like the drums come in really hard at that moment, and like smacks back into like the crime music or whatever. So that was my.
Yeah, there were a lot of like heavy strings moments in this, especially that chase scene that we keep referencing. There's like really intense strings that are playing as they're like chasing each other through the parade and up and down the stairs and everything. Like that's really good. But I think my favorite is kind of like what you're talking about, and it is when the moment that they bring up those chains at the beginning of the movie. And Tommy Lee Jones shows them, they get the chains. He's like, and then he goes into that speech. As soon as he goes into that speech, the music drop, like there's no music there, and then all of a sudden it's this like very low drop in of the music and like the drums and everything, and it's showing you like clips of him running through the forest. I thought that was really good and really effective. I really like that moment. But yeah, unfortunately we don't have any like pop music or anything to throw in here for like this. But yeah, just talking about the score alone, it was pretty good.
It was good.
Yeah,
I did it.
I texted Joseph before this, and I said we're not doing a most dateable or an F, marry, kill with characters, and I'm gonna stand by that. I just never like I watched the whole movie, and I was like, man, I don't want to F, marry, or kill any of these characters, and they're not even like I couldn't even think of fun. And I was like, I could do a bunch of these dudes in here, but it just wasn't worth it. But okay, chat says Harrison Ford's character Tommy Lee and Cosmo. If we really wanted it,
okay. I think Tommy Lee. I think Tommy Lee is my guy for Mary.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I think maybe Harrison I kill.
I think I'm with you on that too. Like I need to bang some Cosmo with it.
Yeah, I feel like Cosmo would be a good time, you know. Just because I mean all Cosmos, it just works, you know.
I mean, what a name! Cosmo is only the name of somebody that you're sleeping with, not somebody that you're bringing home to marry. No, Spencer, you're wrong. He said he'd marry Cosmo.
Hey, you never know.
Yeah,
I mean, we don't have enough depth there, I think, to know.
Different strokes for different folks, but no, Tommy Lee seems like he's got a pretty secure position and. He knows he knows more than he lets on. He's like Columbo a little bit. He's the big dog.
He's the big dog.
Woof woof.
Woof woof. I do think, and I stand by what I texted back to you as the most dateable, and this is mainly from going back to Lost, just because I love her character so much. But the woman who plays Rose, that's in the crew, I would say is the most dateable of the whole movie for me. I just want to date Rose, man.
Dude, Rose, she was cool, man. She's cool.
She's cool.
She's cool. I'm trying to think of anybody like we really don't even get that much time with like his wife or anything. And the only other like Julianne Moore
gets 2 minutes of screen time.
Yeah.
Jane Lynch gets less than 2 minutes of screen time.
Oh yeah, I forgot Jane Lynch. Yep. But she seems way into Kimball. Like she would do him.
She does.
Yeah. And supposedly there was also like where they were going to try and make them a romantic match. Like they were going to have like a romantic scene. Him and
while he's still running from. That's too soon. I'm glad that needed to be.
Well, we'll get to it. Okay.
Okay.
Best performance we can probably glance over because it's Tommy Lee Jones. There's no doubt about it. He won Best Supporting Actor. I mean, he's so good in this movie. He's got the best role. He's just hamming it up. He's into it. So Tommy Lee Jones, hands down, I think is the winner of this entire movie. He's incredible in this movie. So, all right. Recast, if we had to. I have some for 93 and 2023.
Oh, nice.
And I would love to go down this rabbit hole with you. But
let's hear it.
What do you have?
I don't have anything from 93.
So. 93. The only other thing I can think, because of I just didn't love Harrison Ford's good in this movie. Again, I love this movie. I think it is super rewatchable and a movie that I find very fun and entertaining. I think maybe Michael Keaton, Michael Douglas, who were both considered for the role, might have been more interesting choices for this specific role. I think Michael Douglas really could have done something with this. Michael Keaton would have been a little bit more likable. And I think that's what I need. Like, I wanted Harrison Ford to be a little bit more likable. He was a little too cold for me.
Yeah. It's pretty cold. That's interesting. I feel like I read that Alec Baldwin was supposed to be the original Richard Kimball, which I'm glad that they pivoted from that because I don't think that would have been. I think that would have been worse than Harrison Ford.
Yeah, he's too cold.
Yeah.
Richard Gere is another one that was up for that, and I thought the same thing. I was like, Richard Gere, I think you're like too much of a slime ball a little bit to be in this. But I thought Richard Gere would be good, and this is the only other casting I did for 93 was Richard Gere for Nichols part, Dr. Nichols.
Oh, okay.
I thought that was a little bit more of a slimier character and could also be charming at the same time. So I was like, yeah, he could have been good. In that, somebody said in the chat, Gilbert Gottfried as Tommy Lee Jones's character, Martin Lawrence as Tommy Lee Jones's role. Only one of those were serious because Gilbert Gottfried, that's ridiculous. And then when we were talking about Alec Baldwin, Spencer said Alec Baldwin would have shot someone, which is topical, as he did shoot somebody. Victor Garber as the mean character. Okay, I could see that. I like that.
Garber.
You know who Victor Garber is? He was in Alias. He's
like the main guy in Alias.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
Victor Garber too. You know, he's kind of he played that role a little bit in what is that movie with Reese Witherspoon? Legally Blonde. He's like her mentor or something, and he comes on to her or whatever. Yeah, he could play that role. 2023 recasting. Who do you got? I only cast Kimball and Gerard. So.
Okay. I did struggle to find somebody for Kimball. I was trying to. I feel like, and maybe you disagree, but I feel like a younger person.
Okay.
Than like the age that Harrison's at in this would work better. Like maybe for more of the action or like chase scenes and stuff, somebody who could like, and maybe this goes back to my bias for U.S. Marshals, but Wesley Snipes is like way better on the run than Harrison. Mm-hmm. Okay. That's where my mind was at, but I couldn't come up with any names for Kimball. So if you want to go ahead with that.
Kimball, the only thing I thought about was I still went with around the same age, and I was thinking about guys that could physically do it and be believable on the run, but also be likable because that was my biggest gripe with Kimball in this is that I just didn't like him as much as I liked the other guys. No. And so I was thinking like Matt Damon, who can often play both sides of that, like be a villain, but also be a very well-liked person. Mark Ruffalo, I thought could handle it maybe. And then I threw in Will Smith.
Okay.
I thought Will Smith would be good. Barring him slapping anybody, let's not forget Will Smith is an actually decent actor and can handle roles like that. I thought this would be a good role for him. So.
Oh yeah, he's done ton of great like action roles. Obviously, Matt Damon too. Who's the other one? Mark Ruffalo. Yeah. Mark Ruffalo is very, very likable. So
yeah,
I get that.
I liked him in that. So okay, who do you have for Gerard?
For Gerard, I did the first one I did is like kind of a joke, but not really because I really like her a lot. Longtime SVU actress, Mariska Hargitay.
Okay.
Kind of as like your head of the unit, delegator, kind of serious and like takes her job super seriously. But she can be funny too. So.
Okay. I'm not an SVU person. I've never been an SVU person.
She's
so.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That might be a little bit like too much on the nose, but I put
I love it.
It jumped in my head. The other one I put down was Jake Gyllenhaal. I thought he's like a good like kind of cop role in a lot of things I've seen too. So
I want to cast Jake Gyllenhaal in everything. I love Jake Gyllenhaal. I was talking to you earlier this week about Prisoners, and I was like, oh, man, Prisoners, man. I want to rewatch it all the time.
Yeah.
And you're like, it's not a rewatchable movie, man. You have something mentally wrong with you.
It's a tough watch, man.
That's a tough watch. That is a tough watch. You're right.
Jeez.
There might be something wrong with me.
Maybe just watch more Zodiac. That's a little bit.
Oh, gosh, I love Zodiac, too. Gosh, it's so good. I had Matthew McConaughey just because I thought he was like the most Tommy Lee of actors we have.
Okay.
And then I was like Brad Pitt maybe, but not as much. But the one that I really liked was, and he's kind of already done this, but I think this would bring in the comedic side of him as well, and that's John Hamm. Because we see John Hamm kind of in this role in The Town, where he's like the lead investigator in the town and everything. But get a little bit of his Fletchness in there from Confess Fletch, and you get a Tommy Lee Jones character.
Okay, yeah, you're concocting a Tommy Lee Jones. I like it. Yeah.
Anybody else that you want to I didn't recast anybody else.
I didn't either. I mean, there's a ton of people you could plug in on the team.
Yeah,
that would be great. But I didn't put anybody down.
All right. Did you know? Are there any fun facts that you saw from your research and stuff that you wanted to tell everybody?
Yeah. Well, let's see. We mentioned quite a few of them. About like the train and bus wreck being real and visitable. So there was, I guess they had already planned the sequel or talked about it at some point. I read that the wife, or the woman who played the wife, wanted her character to be put in a coma instead of killed so that she could reprise her role, and they shut that down and said, "We're going to kill you." So I thought that was kind of interesting. Let's see. The only other thing. Oh no, I've got two other things. Harrison Ford apparently really hurt his leg at some point, and the limping from that point on was real in like the running scenes. And that was his choosing. Like he was like, "Let's keep shooting. I'm gonna limp. I'll have surgery after we're done." So I thought that was kind of cool. And then the other thing I thought that was really cool, when they're doing like a helicopter shot at one point where Tommy Lee Jones is in the helicopter, there was not enough room for the cameraman in the helicopter, so they strapped him to the outside of the helicopter.
That's some Tom Cruise stuff.
So, yeah, that was crazy. So
okay. I have a couple things. There was somebody in chat that just said Tommy Lee Jones and Al Gore were college roommates.
What?
Yeah, I don't know where they went. So the inventor of the internet and Tommy Lee Jones were college roommates. So that's a fun fact. Oh my gosh, that's a funny joke. I said, "Where did they go to college?" and she replied with the same one. So that's really good.
Walk right into that.
Damn, I just got these nuts on my own thing. So we kind of talked about this a little bit, but Julianne Moore's character had a bigger role in the film after she exposed him. Kimball was going to seek her out for help and eventually fall for her. They were filmed and then they were deleted from the final cut of the film. That's why her name is still credited as one of the main stars of this film.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering. I figured there was something like that with both her and Jane Lynch, because those are like pretty big names to have just so little time on screen.
Yeah. I think that Jane Lynch was a smaller star at this point, but like Julianne Moore, I mean, she's coming up right now, and like It's so weird that she's in this movie and not has a bigger role, but this explains it. So I already talked about the improvisation of the movie, but the only other one that I really thought was cool was that this was the first American movie shown in Chinese theaters in 40 years. Audience accustomed to local movies were blown away when they saw it. It was a huge hit there, probably also, led to it being such a big worldwide success. But after this was the first American film. That's weird that this was like Jurassic Park's not even going to make it in there. The Fugitive is.
Interesting. So. I wonder how that was decided. Because you got 40 years worth of films to choose from too.
Yeah.
Like, as the first one. So.
No Godfather, no nothing.
Maybe
That's
they
weird.
just love Harrison over there.
I just love Harrison Ford. Yeah, you don't even get Back to the Future. You don't get Indiana Jones. You don't any of these things. This is the first one. Interesting. I did reply on the "You Ain't All That" category for this. This is a good movie, but I did think that there were some negatives to take away from this movie. Obviously this is Tommy Lee Jones's movie, but the movie is called The Fugitive. It should be about the fugitive, and I should like him and enjoy the fugitive. I think there should have been more there that I wished was, fleshed out. So that's my biggest complaint about this movie. Again, Tommy Lee Jones is amazing in this movie, but it's one of those things where we write a show about a television show about somebody, and then the audience ends up liking this other side character way more. So we're going to pivot and make it all about him.
And make a sequel called U.S. Marshals.
Yeah, make a sequel and not Richard Kimball Part 2 or anything like that. So, yeah, that's my biggest complaint.
So maybe you think they should have called this movie U.S. Marshals and then the sequel U.S. Marshals 2?
Yes, 100%. I like that. Spencer, who doesn't want me to name him, in the chat said that he is not a big Tommy Lee Jones fan. That's his hot take. He's wrong. Especially
in this era, I think. Older Tommy Lee, I mean, he's older already. But I'm thinking No Country for Old Men. He was good in that, but
yeah,
not at the same level that he is here. He's top of his game here, I think.
Yeah, the 90s was the Tommy Lee Jones era. He's amazing. Did you have any hot takes or anything that you want to talk about the movie before I move into movie pairing?
No, I did rate it on the good side, but I didn't have anything over. I will say that review that you said at the very beginning, not the Ebert one, the other one, it did kind of feel like there wasn't a lot of depth to the characters.
I agree with that.
Other than, and even Tommy Lee Jones, we don't really get any history or backstory or anything. I think I would have liked a little bit more of that, but I think that the film still worked very well without diving into any characters too deep. So
100% agree. I think I agree with you on that. And the only reason that we get a more fulfilling Tommy Lee Jones performance is because I think of the relationship he has with his team, and we get to see, some of that, camaraderie, and we get to see a little bit more of that fleshed out than we do with, Richard's character, who's on the run the whole time by himself. So
yeah, we get when he saves the kid, that's a good
maybe in those Julianne Moore scenes or something that we didn't get to see, we get a little bit more forward. But yeah, I don't know. If you could pair this movie with another movie for a double feature, what would you choose and why?
Got a couple.
I got two.
Well, I'm not even going to mention U.S. Marshals again, even though I'm mentioning it right now. Another plug. I put kind of the just sort of nonstop hunt on the run vibes. I went with the older one, North by Northwest.
Oh, interesting. I like that.
Pretty fun pairing. And then just if you were doing a Harrison double feature with him a lot better, I would pick one of my favorite Harrison Ford movies, which is Blade Runner. That was my other pairing. They're not exactly similar movies in any stretch, but if you're on a Harrison double feature, I would choose Blade Runner.
That's what I've got playing in the background right now is Blade Runner.
Nice.
Yeah.
I always wonder because you never say it.
Unless somebody asks me, I'm not going to say it probably because I'll forget about it. But no, I got a really cool old VHS copy of it. Awesome. So I'm pretty proud of that one. The two that I thought of, I'm glad we didn't have any that matched up. I said Minority Report.
Oh yeah.
Very good pairing, I think. Kind of a similar thing, except for a little bit more sci-fi and the Minority, more along the lines of a Blade Runner kind of thing.
Right.
But, that whole like fugitive being chased down by the law, I think Minority Report. And then for Tommy Lee Jones, if we love Tommy Lee Jones so much, I went with Men in Black on this one.
Nice.
I thought that was a good one to pair with this particular movie, just with the that's where I want to be like, how do you not like Tommy Lee Jones? Men in Black is so good, but it's not because of Will Smith. It's because Tommy Lee Jones is really good. Like they're good together. They have good chemistry together, but Tommy Lee Jones kills it in that movie.
Tommy Lee Jones is just out here spawning sequels, like
he's just, I mean, when I think of a franchise, I'm like Tommy Lee Jones, put him in it. Everybody's like The Rock or something like that. We have some people saying Double Jeopardy, which is a good movie. Tommy Lee Jones is in that, right? Ashley Judd, Tommy Lee Jones. And then Spencer also is getting really upset that I'm not talking about things that he's talking about. But The Hunted is the one that he suggested for this one, which I don't think I've seen The Hunted. But
is that a more recent movie, like the last 3 or 4 years?
That movie is from 2003.
Okay.
Tommy Lee Jones, Benicio del Toro. I don't know any of these other big name people in here, so I don't know what it's about, but he suggested it. So I'm assuming The Hunted, it's about a person that they're trying to catch. So
basically the same thing as The Fugitive.
Yeah. If you want to watch a movie that's exactly like The Fugitive, The Hunted. So you can watch Spencer's bad movie pairing.
Boy, Spencer's really taking a beating in this.
Hey, if you're not here you're going to get the beating. So he says it's exactly the same movie.
Love it.
If you had to give this a movie a rewatchability rating out of 5, what would you give it?
I gave it 4.
Okay.
The only reason I would say not a 5 or close to a 5 is just like mystery type movies. Like once you know the ending, kind of takes a little bit of the flair away. But with the humor and everything, and like the way the movie carries itself, it's still great to rewatch.
Yeah. I think I gave it a 5, but now that you mentioned that, like what you just said, I'm like, yeah, I guess 4. Because like if I'm coming in to this movie and I see the first, like any point during the first half of this movie or first 2/3 of this movie, I'm watching to the end. But if I come in at certain points when he's like doing his investigation stuff, I'm out.
It's like,
I don't need to know how many one-armed men there are in Chicago. I don't.
Yeah, that's like we already know.
Yeah,
we already know.
There's
how
14
many,
of them.
Yeah, and then you enter in another parameter and it takes it down to 5.
Yeah.
So we know. We've seen it.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would probably take mine down to a 4 too. Overall star rating, if you gave it out of 5,
3.5.
3.5. All right. Yep. I love it. That is exactly what I gave it. 3.5 stars. And Spencer also gave it 3.5 stars. He didn't ask me to say that from the chat, but he gave it 3.5 stars. And
we're all on the same page about one.
Yeah, that's a first and will never happen again.
Never happen.
Because we'll love some movie and he'll hate it, and he'll hate some movie and we'll love it. He's all over the place. He's usually the polar opposite of us.
It's good though. You gotta have.
I need that. I need a guy like that.
Yeah.
He's he's a Gen Z. I'm kidding. He's not Gen Z.
I was about to, you like stopped me in my track there. I was like, what? Gen
Z? He is definitely a wild card though. All right. Well, we did it. We made it through The Fugitive, and I love The Fugitive. I think it's a good movie to watch. It's not I don't think it's going to be the number 1 movie this year of my list if I had to rank them, but it's definitely up there. Top 5 or 10 right now for me of the movies that we've watched. I think we're well over halfway at this point. I think we're like at 29 or 30 of these movies, so we've only got like 22 left. So we're really cranking through these, and I'm loving it. I'm still enjoying this, and I love watching these movies every week, especially with you all and getting y'all to weigh in on these movies. So look forward to doing that some more. Joseph, thank you so much. for watching this and talking about it with me. I can't wait to do it again with you some more.
Yes.
What I want to talk about with you now is there anything that you've watched recently that you would recommend?
You're not going to be happy with what I say about this, but yes, there is.
He hates Oppenheimer, folks.
I've watched a few things. I finally finished The Walking Dead. More so just out of principle than anything else. Just, kind of one of those things where I'd watched like 9 out of 11 seasons and just needed to finish it. And it was kind of lackluster and no conclusion really, and setting up their spinoffs. So I didn't particularly care for that. So that's not a recommendation, but I did do that. So I'm proud of myself.
Congratulations. I'm proud of you for finishing The Walking Dead.
Thank you so much. Something I do want to talk about, though, is Dragon Prince. I told you weren't going to like what I had to say.
I don't mind the Dragon Prince. I'm just not what I expected.
Netflix dropped the season 5 Dragon Prince earlier this week, like kind of out of the blue.
And the Dragon... And the Dragon Prince comes from the same guys that did Avatar and Korra. Right?
One of the main writers from Avatar: Last Airbender is like the writer for Dragon Prince.
Okay.
So yeah, the 5th season was very, very good. I watched it all almost in one sitting. Very short episodes, short season. I think it was like maybe 8 episodes or something. But yeah, very good. Setting up for another great season to come. So,
very cool.
And that's all I've watched.
That is a lie.
No, I did. I finally did Barbenheimer yesterday. We went and saw Oppenheimer at like 11 a.m. In IMAX, and then we saw Barbie at like 10:30 p.m. last night. So
I did the same thing yesterday as well. I saw it in that order, and I'm glad that I saw Oppenheimer before I saw Barbie.
Same.
I think it gave me hope after Barbie.
So, I liked them both a lot. I do think I like Barbie a little bit better, which I was not expecting. I'm a big Christopher Nolan guy. Oppenheimer was very good. It was a theater movie like all of his are. I was very glad to see it in the theater. And that story is just fascinating. And then Barbie was the opposite end, just like zany and fantastic, but also very serious and insightful. So
I think I keep thinking about it. I think I'm the opposite. I think I liked Oppenheimer better than Barbie. But just a little bit. I think the writing in Barbie is really sharp, and Greta Gerwig is so good at just what she put on the page and showed on the screen. It's really good. I do think that anything that I have against Barbie is not anything against the movie. Actually, I just don't think the message of Barbie, besides like the patriarchy things and, dealing, talking about the patriarchy and how it influences everybody, not just women, and it influences men as well. I really like that part of it, but I do think that there are some central messages that are, obviously geared towards women. And I think that I was talking to Alyssa about it, and like there are certain or monologues or speeches in that movie where it didn't hit me as much as it hit her.
Right.
And so I could appreciate those things. I see those moments, but they just didn't get me as emotionally as they may somebody else. And that was really it. Oppenheimer just really did it for me. I don't know why. There are parts of that movie I don't understand because I'm not a scientist or know anything about science or anything, but the way that movie was structured and the performances, and I don't know. I was kind of blown away. I really want to see both of them again, just to kind of dig a little deeper, see what I missed, the little nuances and things. But yeah, I did Barbenheimer as well.
Barbenheimer Day. Yeah.
Barbenheimer. I didn't have a big a break in between mine as yours. Mine was 15 minutes.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
I kind of wanted to do the back-to-back, but the theaters here were like packed up.
Yeah.
Like,
It's so much better when you go, like, I mean, it's easier when you're by yourself,
yes.
and
And that's usually me.
Yeah,
but
I was about to
this
say,
time I had
like,
2 other people with me, so it was like
it's hard to find tickets that way. Yeah.
it was tricky.
I also watched Terrifier 2.
You
sequel.
love Terrifier.
I liked Terrifier. I did not like Terrifier 2 as much.
Oh no.
Yeah. I think they heard what everybody liked about Terrifier and they're like, let's do it times 10. And I think that's what I didn't like about it. I was just like, oh, you're going for these like kills that are just more extravagant and like even crazier. And then they tried to. Yeah, and then like
Final Destination.
Yeah, Final Destination-esque thing. And then they like tried to put some like Freddy Krueger lore behind the main character, which I really wasn't sure about. I don't know. It kind of lost me a little bit. It was definitely something. I mean, not every scary movie is going to be a winner, but there's still movies that are good to watch if you like scary or horror movies by any means. So I would definitely probably watch it again just because of the gore and like. It does have some really good moments in it. And Art the Clown is probably one of our better new villains in horror films. And he's just really great. The only other thing that I will recommend and to people, and not everybody will like it, but is a TV show on Amazon Prime called Takashi's Castle. Some people may be familiar with this from MXC. If you ever watched MXC as a teenager, where it's like this Japanese game show where it's like Wipeout.
Oh, I do. Yeah, I do remember that show.
Yeah. And then like MXC, they took footage from this 80s game show and like redubbed over it with like funny lines in English. Well, they revamped it, just the Japanese version, no American, no English here, no dumb jokes or anything like that. And it's just pure Japanese, and it's still so funny. And I don't know. I have this soft spot for like Japanese comedy because there are some definite Japanese comedians in this. If you've ever heard me talk about the show Documental, which is a great another kind of Japanese game show. It's so good. I have been entranced by Takashi's Castle, and that's what I've been watching.
Nice. Is this like a new like season 1 type thing?
Yeah, I guess it came out in April, and then I got a suggestion for it, and I was like, yeah, sure, I'll watch this. And it's like it's like 4K and all, like it's really well shot and everything. So I've enjoyed. I think it's like 8 episodes, maybe 6. No, it's 8 episodes. So good. So nice. If you guys have Amazon Prime, check it out. Anything else that you want to mention? Is there any sunsets that you have seen lately that you're like, man, that was really good?
No, I haven't seen a lot of the sun lately.
Yeah, me neither. I've been slacking a lot. Well, I hope your back feels better, and I really appreciate you for doing this with me. And I look forward to the next time that we do this together. But for next week, we are going to be watching the movie Heart and Souls, which stars Robert Downey Jr. from U.S. Marshals. And just so everybody knows, it is not streaming anywhere currently. But if you Google Heart and Souls free into Google, into the search bar, one of the first places that should pop up is an Internet Archive or archive.org. You should be able to watch the movie for free by doing that. So that is where I encourage everybody to go if you're going to watch this movie. It is a very funny comedy, and I look forward to talking about it next week. So hopefully you'll join us. Anything else before we leave? I don't think so. And I think that's where we'll end it. Thank you for joining us for 52/1993. We'll see you all next week.